Chapter 10. The Hooded Figure Returns. As the caravan emerged from the carefully chiseled passage leading out of the depths of Mount Mandar, Virini requested that the carriage be stopped for a minute. Virini, Sati, Shiva, and Nandi went down on their knees and offered a short prayer to the mountain for its continued benefaction. Watching over them on high alert was the Arishtanemi Bhabarya, a strapping man of 60 years with an intimidating mustache and beard. After a short while, Bhabaravya came up to Virini and said with barely concealed impatience, "Your Highness, perhaps it's time to get back into the carriage." Virini looked at the captain and got up with a quick nod. Sati, Shiva, and Nandi followed. "It's her," said Vishwadyuman, putting down the scope and turning towards his lord. The platoon was at a safe distance, concealed from the caravan. The dense and impenetrable foliage was an effective shield. "Yes," said the hooded figure and let his eyes linger on Shiva's muscular body. Even without using the scope, he was in no doubt that this was the same man who had fought him at the Brahma temple some weeks ago. "Who is that man?" "I don't know, my lord." "Keep your eyes on him. He was the one who foiled the last attack." Vishwadyuman wanted to say that the previous attempt failed because it was unplanned. The presence of the cast unmarked man had little role to play. Vishwadyuman could not understand the recent irrational decisions of his lord. It was unlike him. Perhaps it was the closeness of the ultimate objective that was clouding his judgment. Vishwadyuman was, however, wise enough to keep his thoughts to himself. "Perhaps we could track them for around an hour before we attack, my lord. It will be a safe distance from the Arishtanemi backup. We can get this over and done with quickly and report back to the queen that the informer was correct." "No, we will wait for a few hours more till they are at least a half day's distance away from Mount Mandar. There's new carriage have systems that can send an emergency signal immediately. We need to ensure that our task is over before their backup arrives." "Yes, my lord," said Vishwadyuman, happy to see that his lord's famed tactical brilliance had not diminished. "And remember, I want it done quickly," added the hooded figure. "The more time we take, the more people get hurt." "Yes, my lord." It was the beginning of the third prahar when the caravan stopped at the halfway clearing for lunch. The forest had been cut back to a distance that made a surprise attack impossible. The queen's maids quickly unpacked the food and began heating it in the center of the clearing. The royal party and Shiva were sitting closer to the heat of the caravan in the same direction as Devagri. Bhabaravya stood on the higher ground in the rear, keeping an eagle eye on the surroundings. Apart from the royal party, half the Arishtanemi soldiers had also sat down to eat, while the others kept watch. Shiva was about to take a second helping of rice when he heard the crack of a twig down the road. Stopping midway, he listened intently for another sound. There was none. His instincts told him this was a predator, who, on realizing that he had made a mistake, was now keeping still. Shiva looked over at Sati to see if she had heard the sound. She too was staring intently down the road. There was a soft crunch as the foot on the broken twig erased its pressure slightly. It would have been missed by most except for a focused listener. Shiva immediately put his plate down, pulled out his sword, and fixed his shield on his back. Bhabravya saw Shiva across the caravan and drew his sword as well, giving quick, silent signals to his men to do the same. The Arishtnemi were battle ready in a matter of seconds. Their swords unsheathed, Sati and Nandi too assumed traditional fighter positions. Sati whispered to Virini without turning, "Mother, please sit in the carriage and lock it from within. Take the maid inside with you, but get them to disconnect the horses from the carriage first. We are not retreating and we don't want the enemy kidnapping you either." "Come with me, Sati," pleaded Virini as her maids rushed to pull out the holds on the carriage. "No, I'm staying here. Please hurry. We may not have much time." Virini rushed into the carriage, followed by the maids who quickly locked it from the inside. At a distance, Bhabravya whispered to his aide, "I know their tactics. I have seen these cowards on the southern border. They will send an advanced suicide party, pretend to retreat, and draw us into a stronghold. I don't care about the losses. We will chase those bastards and destroy every single one of them. They have run into the Arishtnemi. They will pay for this mistake." Shiva meanwhile turned to Sati and whispered carefully, "I think they must be aiming for a high profile target. Nothing would be more significant than the royal family. Do you think that you two should wait in the carriage?" Sati's eyes darted up towards Shiva in surprise. A pained look across her face before being replaced by a defiant glare. "I'm going to fight." What's wrong with her? What I said is completely logical. Make the main objective of the enemy difficult and they will lose the will to fight. Shiva pushed these thoughts out of his mind so he could focus on the road. The rest of the caravan strained every nerve to listen intently for any movement from the enemy. They were prepared for the ambush. It was the enemy's turn to make the first move, just as they were beginning to think that it may have been a false alarm. The sound of a conch shell reverberated from down the road, from the direction of Mount Mandar. Shiva turned around but did not move. Whoever was making the noise was moving rapidly towards them. Shiva could not recognize the cacophonic sound. However, the Arishtnemi from the southern border knew exactly what it was. It was the sound of a Nagdhwani conch. It was blown to announce the launch of a Naga attack. Though impatient to fight, Bhabravya did not forget the standard operating procedures. He gestured towards an aide who rushed to the carriage and pulled out a red box fixed at the bottom. Kicking it open, the aide pressed a button on the side. A tabular, chimney-like structure extended straight up from the box for nearly 25 feet. The chimney ensured that the smoke signal was not lost in the dense forest and could be seen by the Scots at both Devagri and Mount Mandar. The soldier picked up a branch from the fire and pushed it into the last of the 4 slots on the right side of the box. Red smoke fumed out of the chimney, signifying the presence of the highest level of danger. Help was 6 hours away, 4 if the backup rode hard. Bhabravya did not intend the battle to last that long. He intended to kill each of the Nagas and the Chandravanshis long before that. The attack began from the side of the road leading to Mount Mandar. A small band of 10 Chandravanshi soldiers charged at the Arishtnemi. One soldier was holding the Naga conch shell and blowing hard. Another amongst them had covered his entire face and head with a cloth, except for small slits of his eyes. The Naga himself. Shiva did not move. He could see the battle raging at the far end of the caravan. There were only 10 Chandravanshis. The Arishtnemi did not need any support. He signaled to Sati and Nandi to stay where they were. Sati agreed as she too expected this attack to be a ruse. The battle was short and fierce. The Chandravanshi soldiers fought viciously but were outnumbered. As Bhavaravya expected, they turned in no time and retreated fast. After them, yelled Bhavaravya, kill them all. The Arishtanemi dashed behind their captain in pursuit of the retreating Chandravanshis. Most of them did not hear Shiva cry out loud, "No, stay here, don't chase them." By the time some of the Arishtanemi heard Shiva's order, a majority had already left, chasing the Chandravanshis. Shiva was left in the clearing with Sati Nandi and just 25 soldiers. Shiva turned back towards the side of the road leading to Devagiri, the direction from which the original sound of the cracking twig had come. He turned again to look at the remaining Arishtanemi. Pointing towards his back, he spoke with a voice that was both steady and calm. "This is where the actual attack will come from. Get into a tight formation in force. Facing that direction, keep the princes in the middle. We will have to hold them back for about 5 or 10 minutes. The other Arishnemi will return when they realize that there are no Chandravanshis to fight in that direction." The Arishtanemi looked at Shiva and nodded. They were battle-hardened men. They liked nothing more than a clear-headed and calm leader who knew exactly what he was doing. They quickly got into the formation ordered by Shiva and waited. Then the real attack began. 40 Chandravanshi soldiers led by a hooded figure emerged from the trees, walking slowly towards the Suryavanshi caravan. The outnumbered Arishtanemi remained stationary, waiting for their enemy to come to them. "Surrender the princes to us, and we will leave," said the hooded figure. "We want no unnecessary bloodshed." "The same Joker from the Brahma temple. He's got a strange costume, but he fights well." "We don't want any bloodshed either," said Shiva. "Leave quietly, and we promise not to kill you." "You are the one who is looking at death in the face, barbarian," said the hooded figure, conveying anger through his posture rather than his voice, which remained airily composed. Shiva noticed the brown turbaned officer looked impatiently at the hooded figure. He clearly wanted to attack and get this over and done with. Dissension in the ranks? "The only face I'm looking at is a stupid festival mask, and it's soon going to be showed down your pathetic little throat. Also, tell that brainless lieutenant of yours that he shouldn't give battle plans away." The hooded figure remained calm, not turning to look at Vishwadyuman. "Damn, this man is good." "This is the last warning, barbarian," repeated the hooded figure. "Hand her over right now." Sati suddenly turned towards the carriage as she realized something, shouting, "Mother, the new emergency conch shell close to the front grill. Blow it now." A loud plea for help emitted from the carriage. Bhavaravya and his men had been summoned. The hooded figure cursed as he realized his advantage had been taken away. He had very little time to complete his operation. The other Suryavanshis would be back soon. "Charge!" The Arishtanemi stayed in position. "Steady," said Shiva. "Wait for them. All you have to do is buy time. Keep the princess safe. Our friends will be back soon." As the Chandravanshis came closer, Sati suddenly broke through the cordon and attacked the hooded figure. Sati's surprise attack slowed the charge of the Chandravanshis. The Arishtanemi had no choice. They charged at the Chandravanshis like vicious tigers. Shiva moved quickly to protect the right flank of Sati as an advancing Vishwadyuman got dangerously close to her. Vishwadyuman swung his sword to force Shiva out of his way. However, the speed of Shiva's advance left Vishwadyuman unbalanced. Shiva easily parried the blow and pushed Vishwadyuman back with his shield. Nandi meanwhile moved rapidly to the left of Sati to block the Chandravanshis trying to charge down that side. In the meantime, Sati was attacking the hooded figure with fierce blows. He, on the other hand, seemed intent upon simply defending himself and was not striking back. He wanted her alive and unharmed. Shiva cut Vishwadyuman savagely across the shoulder that had been exposed when he was pushed back. Grimacing, Vishwadyuman brought his shield up to fend off another attack from Shiva. In tandem, he sought art thrust at Shiva's torso. Shiva quickly pulled his shield in to protect himself, but not quickly enough. Vishwadyuman was able to slash Shiva's chest. Stepping back and jumping to his right, Shiva brought his sword swiftly down in a brutal jab, while Vishwadyuman promptly brought his shield up to block the attack. Shiva's unorthodox move unsettled him. He staggered back, realizing that Shiva was an excellent swordman. It was going to be a long and hard duel. Nandi had already brought down one Chandravanshi soldier who had broken a law of combat that prohibited attacking below the waist and cut Nandi's thigh. Bleeding profusely, Nandi was ferociously battling another soldier who had attacked him from the left. The Chandravanshi brought his shield down hard on Nandi's injured leg, making him stagger and fall. The Chandravanshi thought he had his man. Raising his sword high with both his hands, he was about to bring it down to finish the job, but he suddenly arced forward as if a brutal force had pounded him from the back. As he fell, Nandi saw a knife buried deep in the Chandravanshi's back. Looking up, he saw Shiva's left arm continue down in a smooth arc from the releasing of the dagger. With the right hand, Shiva brought his sword up to block a vicious cut from Vishwadyuman as Nandi stumbled back to his feet. Shiva reached behind to pull his shield in front again. The hooded figure knew that time was running out. The other Arishthanemi would be back soon. He tried to move behind Sati to club her on the back of the head and knock her unconscious, but she was too quick. She moved swiftly to the left to face her enemy again. Taking a knife out of her Angavastram folds with her left hand, she slashed outward to cut deep across the hooded figure's immense stomach. The knife sliced through the robe, but its effect was broken by the armor. And then, with a resounding roar, Bhavravya and the other Arishthanemi rushed back to fight alongside their mates. Seeing themselves vastly outnumbered, the hooded figure had no choice. He ordered his soldiers to retreat. Shiva stopped Bhavravya from chasing the Chandravanshis once again. "Let them go, brave Bhavravya," said Shiva. "We will have other opportunities to get them. Right now, the priority objective is to protect the royal family." Bhavravya looked at Shiva with admiration for the way their foreigner fought, and not the blue throat of which he was unaware. He nodded politely. "It makes sense, foreigner." Bhavravya quickly formed the Arishthanemi soldiers in a tight perimeter and pulled the wounded within. Dead bodies were not touched. At least 3 Arishthanemi had lost their lives, while 9 Chandravanshi bodies lay in the clearing. The last one had taken his own life since he was too wounded to escape. Better to meet one's maker than to fall into enemy hands alive and reveal secrets. Bhavravya ordered his soldiers to stay low and keep their shields in front for protection against any arrows, and thus they waited till the rescue party arrived. My God! Cried an anxious Daksha as he hugged Sati tight. The rescue party of 500 soldiers had reached by the fourth hour of the second prahar. Daksha, Brahaspati, and Kanakala had accompanied the caravan despite Parvateshwar's warnings of the risks. Releasing Sati from his grip, Daksha whispered as a small tear escaped his eyes, "You are not injured, are you?" "I'm all right, father," said Sati, self consciously. "Just a few cuts, nothing serious." "She fought very bravely," said Virini as she beamed with pride. "I think that is a mother's bias," said Sati as her serious expression was restored. Turning towards Shiva, she continued, "It was Shiva who saved the day, father. He figured out the real plan of the Chandravanshis and rallied everyone at the crucial moment. It was because of him that we beat them back." "Oh, I think she is too generous," said Shiva. "She's impressed, finally." "She isn't being generous at all, my lord," said a visibly grateful Daksha. "You have begun your magic already. We have actually beaten back a terrorist attack. You don't know how significant this is for us." "But it wasn't a terrorist attack, Your Highness," said Shiva. "It was an attempt to kidnap the princess." "Kidnap?" asked Daksha. "That hooded man certainly wanted her alive and unharmed." "What hooded man?" cried Daksha, alarmed. "That was the Naga, Your Highness," said Shiva, surprised at Daksha's hysterical response. "I have seen that man fight. He is an excellent warrior, a little slow in his movements, but excellent all the same. But while fighting Sati, he was trying his best not to hurt her." The color drained completely from Daksha's face. Virini glared at her husband with a strange mixture of fear and anger. The expression on their faces made Shiva feel uncomfortable, as if he was intruding on a private family moment. "Father?" asked a worried Sati. "Are you all right?" Hearing no response from Daksha, Shiva turned to Sati and said, "Perhaps it's best if you speak to your family alone. If you don't mind, I will go check if Nandi and the other soldiers are all right." Parvateshwar was walking amongst his men, checking on the injured and ensuring that they received medical help. Bhavravya walked 2 steps behind. The journal came up to the Chandravanshi who had been killed by Shiva while protecting Nandi. He roared in horror. "This man has been stabbed in the back." "Yes, my lord," said Bhavravya with his head bowed. "Who did this? Who broke the sacred rule of combat?" "I think it was the foreigner, my lord, but I heard that he was trying to protect Captain Nandi, who had been attacked by the Chandravanshi, and the Chandravanshi himself was not following the combat rules, having attacked Nandi below the waist." Parvateshwar turned with a withering look at Bhavravya, causing him to cover in fear. "Rules are rules," he growled. "They are meant to be followed, even if your enemy ignores them." "Yes, my lord." "Go make sure that the dead get proper cremations, including the Chandravanshis." "My lord?" asked a surprised Bhavravya. "But they are terrorists." "They may be terrorists," snarled Parvateshwar, "but we are Suryavanshis. We are the followers of Lord Ram. There are civilities that we maintain even with our enemies. The Chandravanshis will get proper cremations. Is that clear?" "Yes, my lord." "Why do you call the foreigner your lord?" asked an injured Arishtanemi laying next to Nandi. Shiva had just departed after spending half an hour with Nandi and the other injured soldiers. If one had a look at the injured at this point, it would be impossible to believe that they had fought a battle just a few hours earlier. They were talking jovially with each other. Some were ribbing their mates about how they had fallen for the red herring towards the beginning of the battle. In the Kshatriya way, to laugh in the face of death was the ultimate mark of a man. Because he is my lord, answered Nandi simply. But he is a foreigner, a caste unmarked foreigner, said the Arishtanemi. He is a brave warrior, no doubt, but there are so many brave warriors in Meluha. What makes him so special, and why does he spend so much time with the royal family? I can't answer that, my friend. You will know when the time is right. The Arishtanemi looked at Nandi quizzically, then shook his head and smiled. He was a soldier. He concerned himself only with the here and now. Larger questions did not dwell for too long in his mind. In any case, I think the time is right to tell you that you are a brave man, my friend. I saw you fight despite your injury. You don't know the meaning of the word surrender. I would be proud to have you as my brother. That was a big statement from the Arishtanemi. The Bhrata system that was prevalent in the Meluha army assigned a mate of a equal rank to each soldier up to the rank of captain. The two Bhratas would be like brothers who would always fight together and look out for each other. They would willingly fight the world for each other, would never love the same women, and would always tell each other the truth, no matter how bitter. The Arishtanemi were elite soldiers of the emperor. An Arishtanemi offered to be a Bhrata only to his own kind. Nandi knew that. He could never really be the Arishtanemi's Bhrata. He had to stay with the Lord. But the honor of being offered the brotherhood of an Arishtanemi was enough to bring tears to Nandi's eyes. Don't get teary on me now, chortled the Arishtanemi, wrinkling his nose in amusement. Nandi burst out in laughter as he slapped the Arishtanemi on his arm. What is your name, my friend? Asked Nandi. Kaustav, replied the Arishtanemi. Someday we shall battle the main Chandravanshi army together, my friend, and by the grace of Lord Ram, we will kill all those bastards. By Lord Agni, we will. It was interesting how you got into the Naga's mind, said Brihaspati as he watched Shiva getting the gash on his torso cleaning and dressed. Shiva had insisted that his injuries receive medical attention only after every other soldier's wounds had been tended. Well, I can't really explain it, said Shiva. How the Naga would think just seems so obvious to me. Well, I can explain it. Really? What? The explanation is that you are the omnipotent N, whose name cannot be spoken, said Brihaspati, opening his eyes wide and conjuring his hands up like an ancient magician. They burst out laughing, causing Shiva to bend backwards. The military doctor gave Shiva a stern look, at which he immediately quietened down and let him finish tending to the wound. Having applied the Ayurvedic paste and covered it with the medicinal neem leaf, the doctor bandaged the wound with a cotton cloth. You will need to change that every second day, foreigner, said the doctor, pointing at the bandage. The royal doctor in Devagiri will be able to do it for you. And don't let this area get wet for a week. Also, avoid the somras during this period since you will not be able to bathe. Oh, he doesn't need the somras, joked Brihaspati. It's already done all the damage it can on him. Shiva and Brihaspati collapsed into helpless laughter again as the doctor walked away, shaking his head in exasperation. But seriously, said Brihaspati, calming down, why would they attack you? You have not harmed anybody. I don't think the attack was on me. I think it was for Sati. Sati? Why Sati? That's even more bizarre. It probably wasn't specifically for Sati, said Shiva. I think the target was the royal family. The primary target was probably the emperor. Since he wasn't there, they went for the secondary target, Sati. I think the aim was to kidnap a royal and use that person as leverage. Brihaspati did not respond. He seemed worried, clasping his hands together and bringing them close to his face. He looked into the distance, deep in thought. Shiva reached into his pouch and pulled out his chillam. Before carefully filling it with some dried marijuana, Brihaspati turned to look at his friend, unhappy with what he was doing. I have never told you this before, Shiva, and I probably shouldn't as well, since you are a free man, said Brihaspati. But I considered you my friend, and it is my duty to tell you the truth. I have seen some Egyptian merchants in Karachpa with the marijuana habit. It's not good for you. You're wrong, my friend, said Shiva, grinning broadly. This is actually the best habit in the world. You probably don't know, Shiva. This was many harmful side effects, and worst of all, it even harms your memory, causing untold damage to your ability to draw on past knowledge. Shiva's face suddenly became uncharacteristically serious. He gazed back at Brihaspati with a melancholic smile. This is exactly why it is good, my friend. No idiot who smokes this is scared of forgetting. Shiva lit up his chillum, took a deep drag, and continued. They are scared of not forgetting. Brihaspati stared sharply at Shiva, wondering what terrible past could have prompted his friend to get addicted to the weed.